The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives by Lola Shoneyin. Yeah, with books that are not Western, like American or British, you kind of have to find out who is narrating to make sure.
For sure, it makes a difference. There were ways that she described things that I could picture it so vividly.
A little bit more descriptive in some areas than I would have liked, but hey, I like it. That's kind of it. I think that style is unique to a certain brand of African fiction, which, yeah.
I think that in any polygamous home, the wives are frenemies, right? You will not be best, and you get along because there's a bigger picture for the sake of your children or whatever. It just felt like she walked in there with an air of, I'm better than y'all. Oh, don't worry, I will teach them. Calm down now. That is not the approach to take when you're coming into that type of situation. So I think everybody in there, they started off on the wrong foot. Welcome to Two Bees in a Pod. I am Lola.
And I am B. Leonga, and this is a podcast about immigrant experiences in the U.S., sharing our perspectives on various topics,
including straddling cultures, fitting in, staying connected, learning and unlearning the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Welcome to another episode of Two Bees in a Pod, and this week we are reviewing our August book of the month, which is The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives by Lola Shoneyin. And I apologize because I've been mispronouncing. I thought because there is that Nigerian named Shegun, right? I thought that it was that SE would also be pronounced sh in this case, but apparently not. So I'm glad to be corrected. So it's The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives.
I wanted to crack a crass joke about my Nigerianness, but I've been told that Yoruba is hard to read with the English alphabet because a lot of Yoruba is the pronunciation and they have like dots, like the German 2 dots. So they have a lot of dots that differentiate.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, not to shirk accountability, but I'm pretty sure it's somebody who misled me. I've heard somebody pronounce Segi like Shaggy before, so I just went with it. But obviously, I should have done my research. And like we were talking before we went on the air, I prefer to read books over audio. So obviously, if I had listened to the audiobook, I would have caught that. But I read this one. That's why.
For this particular book, yes, because which book? Was it Under the Odala Trees that I listened to and I did not like the way they were pronouncing the names? I think so.
There's been at least one I was like, absolutely not. Like you could just tell the person narrating. It was either an AI or it was a person not familiar with the culture and you could tell the pronunciations were not right.
Yeah.
So, with books that are not, Western, like American or British, you kind of have to find out who is narrating to make sure.
For sure. It makes a difference. For this book, I think because it was the author who narrated it, and I think she had an idea. There were ways that she described things that I could picture it so vividly. Just so vividly. I could see exactly what she was reading.
Yes, she really goes into... Anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah, very descriptive. A little bit more descriptive in some areas than I would have liked. But hey, I like it. That's kind of it. I think that style is unique to a certain brand of African fiction, which... Yeah. Okay. So our icebreaker today, I was thinking about, the story, and the icebreaker is, what's a trait or behavior that gives you the ick or an immediate turn off in a potential romantic interest?
I feel like we've done this before.
We have. I don't remember what I said last time.
I have not changed. Mine has not changed. And I feel like for context, mine probably hasn't changed because I guess potential love interest for me is in a particular decade. So It's still men taking mirror selfies.
Oh, I remember you said that. I don't, what's the issue?
Like when your friends are at war, you're there in the bathroom.
So is it only the mirror selfie specifically or any selfie that bothers you?
Mirror selfies.
To the men who are listening, I want you to know that I don't share this opinion of Bilola. I think anybody, regardless of gender or machismo, should be able to enjoy their mirror selfies. So keep snapping away, guys. Don't listen to her. And by the way, the people who are at war also be taking selfies. Don't you see those soldiers on TikTok?
They are not puckering, or there's a particular selfie. I might have to go and find a screenshot. But I'm just saying, like, as a man, when you stand in the bathroom. Yeah.
I don't agree with that. But I don't know what I said last time, but for me, at least one, it's high up there, is people who are rude to wait staff or like service workers.
Yes.
That is such a turnoff. It's such an ick, and it says a lot about your character and your personality. Yes. I think so. Like, even if the person messes up, like the way you respond, I think it says a lot about you. So that's a big turn off. Like, people who, and it's not even just like being outrightly rude, it's a certain air with which people speak to service workers and wait staff that you can just tell they think they're better than them.
Expand it, not just service workers, people who you perceived don't have anything to offer you. Mm-hmm. So just because you feel like there's nothing in there, because like I always say, men are the biggest groupies. Like, when you see men in the presence of a rich man and you see how they're like chairman, oga, patron in Cameroon. Yeah. So when you see people, see how they treat people where they don't feel like this person has anything to offer them, that is definitely a big, like.
Yeah. And if we're extending, right, if we're continuing to drag the men, the way a man treats a woman that he does not find attractive, not necessarily that he is attracted to, but that he just deems somebody who is conventionally attractive, that's a big key, I think, to, again, character.
This is a very big sidebar, since we always do this. It's like two things that are related, where this week somebody called me and was talking about, I listened or maybe watched the podcast, and they said they disagree with your take on legacy and children being a legacy or something. It was like your take on children. Mm-hmm. And my response was like, well, that my partner always says you and I are equally yoked, and according to him, we don't like men.
I mean, is that news?
And then now, I guess since June, he's like, well, there's a reason for yours. But
I mean, even when I was dating men, I still didn't like them. So
a few weeks ago, he heard me or saw me listening to a men's podcast, and he was so shocked because he like, in his mind, I hate men, and I don't understand why. Now, do I drag men? Yes, but I said that y'all were like, okay, let me know. Let's calm down.
But I think that statement, hating men, I think the men who have sense understand that. They understand. It's not like you hate every individual man. You just hate them as a group that are oppressive.
I mean, like, I think he takes it like it's not all, but so to him it was just the shock that I would be listening to a men with a microphone.
Hey, like, I mean, they must have been saying something very sensible for you to be listening, to be fair. Because, again, a man with a mic, 99% of the time, is nonsense that they're saying. So I trust that they were saying something sensible.
In that episode, because this week I think they said something stupid. And he came to tell me, I don't know whether he was, I feel like it was a test to see if I was like going to jump. Like, why am I going? I'm sorry. Like, I'm never going to be the one to just jump. I support women's rights and wrongs more often than not. But
same.
I'm not here to, like, I need more details, right? I'm never going to just jump. So he told me, I was like, well, that's stupid. And I don't know what he was expecting. Yes, I listened to them, but that doesn't mean that I'm just going to like, oh, no, that's stupid. That's a daft take. Simple. But yeah, so I found it funny because it was just like, oh yeah, I disagree. I was like, well, I do agree with her. Like I said, I've been told that we're equally yoked, so I don't see. And it's like, well, I guess that's what a podcast is, your opinion. So I said,
Exactly. Anyway, the reason why I chose that icebreaker about the ick, because again, this author, I love, she's very descriptive, and the things that she describes Baba Segi as doing, I don't know how all of his wives, especially Bolale, I don't know how she didn't just, the description is revolting to me, so I can just imagine the women who were around him.
I think, before we get, I just think that all of those women were dealt a hand,
Right.
and they were trying to make the best. They were trying to make the best they could with what they had.
That is true. And, the book goes into that, right? So, just for a general synopsis, so this novel, which was adapted to a play also, which unfortunately has not crossed the Atlantic to meet us here in America, I think it only shows in England, right?
England, yeah, it's only in London.
Yeah. So, I mean, if any of the, the producers or even the author herself is listening, people, we like plays also in America. We're cultured, though. Please, we would love to see it, downtown in the Performing Arts District, downtown Houston. You can bring it. I guarantee you every seat will be filled. There are a lot of Nigerians here, but and I digress. So the story, it follows the goings on in the household of Baba Segi, who is a polygamist man. And when we get into the story, he has just taken his fourth and youngest wife. And this newest addition to the family, is not welcome. She's very much unwelcome by the older wives, and they are determined to do everything in their power to drive her out of that household. But also, one, because they're jealous, but two, because they have a very deep, dark secret that needs to be protected. So that is, essentially the story. We meet this household when Bolanle arrives, and the story is told through the perspectives of multiple characters, which I really appreciated. So at first you think like Bolanle, obviously she is somewhat of the protagonist, but not really, because
Not
we
really.
skip to different characters and we learn about their history, how they came to be where they are, what motivates them, their trauma, their insecurities. So I really like that aspect of the writing, that we were able to see, even the characters who were wicked. We kind of got to know them and why perhaps they became the way that they were.
Yeah.
So the book, it covers some themes that we've already talked about before multiple times on the podcast, like polygamy, child labor, domestic help in certain African households. It definitely covers classism. So, Baba Segi, can you just, I guess since you're the resident Yoruba expert, can you just explain why is he called Baba Segi, and why are the individual wives, apart from Bolanle, called Iya?
Well, I guess basically in Yoruba culture, and most African cultures, right? The father is usually referred to by the name of the first child. Now, I found this interesting because last week I was just talking about something with my father, where my father's mother, as a kid, my dad was called my boy. I guess he was boy, and so his mother was called my boy. But my father is the second child. There's a whole girl before that I feel like she got skipped over in the nomenclature. Now, I don't know if this is a regular occurrence, but I would say like in Yoruba culture, age is a big thing, and so Baba Segi is referred to because his first child's name is Segi. And so all the other wives, Iya Segi, Iya Femi, Iya Tokpe, Iya is basically a mother. And so they're referred to mother of the first child, and the name is usually the first child. So Iya Segi's first child was Segi, Iya Tokpe's first child was Tokpe, and then Iya Femi's first child was Femi. But Bolanle didn't have a child, so she couldn't be Iya anybody.
Right. So that is a main, focal point of this story, right? It's about the inability to conceive. So when Bolanle, joins this household, we meet her initially 2 years after. And in those 2 years, her and Baba Segi have been, trying their best for her to get pregnant, and she has been unable to. So he goes to consult, old wise friend who says, Bolanle, unlike his other wives, is educated. So instead of taking her to the Babalawo and, the witch doctors and the prophets, take her to the space where she's more comfortable, which would be Western medicine, which would be a hospital. So that's where, the story starts. We start kind of finding out that the other wives have something, not only jealousy, there's something else that's motivating them to try to get Bolanle out of that house.
See, first of all, that his friend teacher, I think he explained why he called that man towards the end. That was not his friend, that was an op.
Why?
Because the day, are we skipping parts? The day he came crying about when he discovered the fraud in his household, teacher didn't give him any good advice. Teacher reveled in his misery and his embarrassment, because I think Teacher had gotten caught in a situation and a woman cut off his manhood, if I remember. There was something to do with Teacher not being able to have children. And so when Baba Segi came with talking to him about the fraud, he was happy about it, like he's not the only one. And also because he encouraged him to make a decision that was going to benefit him financially, because I think he owned a bar and he was also close to brothels. So Baba Segi was going to spend more time. So it was not giving friend.
We'll get back to that. So let's start with initially when you start reading the book, you think it's going to be all about Bolande from her perspective. But like I said, it's not, which I really enjoyed. But so Bolande is the youngest wife of Baba Segi. And I think in present time in the book, I believe they say she's 25 years old.
I remember
right?
her
And she
age.
has been in his house for 2 years. So, yeah, that's how I think the timeline is. And through reading her reflections, we find out that she was sexually assaulted at the age of 15 by a complete stranger. And she has never really recovered from the trauma. And there are a couple of points in the book where she refers to herself like she was like empty, just like a shell. Baba Segi, there are two people that you would never match. So it's kind of curious at first, like, why would she want to marry this man who is not educated? He is wealthy in terms that he owns like a carpentry shop. So he has certainly done well for... Is it construction? I thought it was carpentry.
No, it was more than that. I think so.
More than just carpentry? Okay. So he has definitely done well for himself, but he's uneducated. He's kind of... Compared to her, she's what we would describe probably as more polished. He's a bit, crass and uncultured compared to her. And I know that these are kind of classist terms that I'm using, so I apologize for that. But that's from her perspective, right? In the book, she definitely thinks of herself as more cultured, you can tell, than Baba Segi and his other wives. So yeah, you would never match them together. But she, against her mother's protests, her sisters mocking her, like, girl, what are you doing? She insists on marrying this man and becoming his fourth wife. And we find out that she's doing that, again, in an attempt to escape her reality. So I want us to talk about, what do you think it was that she thought she would find? Let's put aside the infertility issues and the jealous wives. Even if everything was going well in that household, was she really being realistic in thinking that she could escape and somehow become a different person?
Yes. So people get very judgmental when people talk about polygamy, right? And I've said that I can see why educated women sometimes would choose polygamy. Now, in Bolanle's case, there was trauma, there was unhealed trauma, and she was running away from something where she went there. But it was basically where because she felt empty and she felt hollow, I think she figured out that being in a polygamy situation where he did not have, there's not 100% of attention on her. She doesn't have to deal with him every day, just a few nights a week. And if she had a child, it's she would be more focused on taking care of a child versus having to cater to the whims every day. But again, I don't think she wasn't in what I would say her regular state where she was thinking about the politics that comes up to being in a polygamous household and examining who were her co-wives going to be. But I would say, I don't know if reading it was different because I listened to the audiobook, and when I started listening, I was like, oh, I remember her being this annoying. In the beginning, it just felt like she walked in there with an air of, I'm better than y'all. Oh, don't worry, I will teach them. There was a part where she's like, anyway, it's not a problem because I would teach them. Calm down now. I think that is not the approach to take when you're coming into that type of situation. So I think everybody in there, they started off on the wrong foot.
I agree. And yeah, she was definitely full of herself. She definitely looked down on everybody, including her husband. She was like, you're right. There were times where she was like, it's okay if, he's like this, I'll teach him better manners. She walks into the house, meets the wives. Again, she's saying to herself, they don't have manners, they're uncultured. It's okay, I'll teach them. The very next day, or within a few days, she comes in and offers to teach them how to read. Girl, who told you that they want to know how to read?
Read them.
One of them did. But can you wait to get to know these women as individuals first before you're coming in there and shoving a book in their face like, oh, let me teach you how. Who told you that they want to know that? You know what I mean? Like, so that was very, again, the first time I read it, probably didn't catch that, or maybe I forgot. But yeah, she was definitely really uppity, in the way she was behaving. But I disagree with you. I don't think, even if things were good in that house, I don't think that she would have lived a peaceful life, because again, that's just not who she was. She was not meant to be a stay-at-home mother as a fourth wife in a polygamous home.
I think that but again, she did not make the decision of sound mind, right? Because when you get to somebody like Iyafemi, you see that I want to say, it's just that she had a vicious streak, if you could call it that. She was hardened by things that had happened, which all of them, things that had happened to them. But I do think that if she had come into, because Iyafemi was the third wife, so obviously it's like children, right? She was the youngest and new shiny object, and then when they brought Bolanle, that put an end to that. But Iyafemi got along with Segi. And I think it was basically on a level where because both of them were like hustlers. They were
frenemies, though. They were frenemies. They got along as far as they had the same goals.
I think that in any polygamous home, the wives are frenemies, right? You will not be best. And you get along because there's a bigger picture for the sake of your children or whatever. It's easier if you guys work together than working against each other. So they were not going to be besties, but I think they recognized that they had a common enemy, and it was Baba Segi. But I'm also saying that Bolanle, I'm not going to say Bolanle's hands were not clean because she was also using Baba Segi. She didn't go in there because she loved this man, or it was just like he's going to help her. He will free her from her situation. He's not going to expect much from her. He's not going to ask her any questions. So she was also using him. She might not have been as devious as the others, but she was also using him. And I don't think that she recognized that she was just as bad as the rest of them. Speaking English.
She was using him, and I just don't understand why she thought that was a good, like, long-term strategy. Like, why did she think she would be happy there long-term? I don't know.
Because she was not of sound mind. That's what I'm saying. She was not thinking straight. Because you can see... Can we skip around and just talk about... Because I don't know why I'm holding back. In that, at the end of the book, when she sort of like gets it off her chest and she tells her mother and she's able to have conversations, it's like she takes the load off and she can see her future more clearly, and it's like, this is not where I want to be. This is not where I'm meant to be. But at the time, she was carrying this secret, and it was like a burden on her, and she didn't see it otherwise. I don't think she considered that there was any other way out for her. And so she picked that option. But once she took it off and she had more clarity and realized, like, this is not the situation for me.
Yeah, because she was freshly, graduated from university. And I'm like, okay, if you hate it at home, why wouldn't you just find a job and move out? But again, to your point, she probably didn't even have that level of ambition where,
She had PTSD.
Big time. Okay, so that's Bolanle, and we'll talk about her more. But... So Baba Segi, right? The first thing that struck me about him, yes, he's crass. Yes, he's a misogynist. He is violent at times. The first thing that struck me about him is how fond he is of his children. And they're also fond of him, right? And they have these, I'll call them like daily rituals in the household where when he gets home, I don't know if he's just getting home from work or maybe he has just gone out anywhere and he's coming back. All of the children come outside and they line up to greet him. And they're not doing it in that kind of, fear,
duty, yeah.
It's not. They're actually so excited to see him. And he's happy to see them too. And then also each evening, like, he makes the family get together and watch. They watch like a TV program and then they watch the evening news together before they go to bed. And he calls it family time. So that, particularly the relationship with his children, struck me because I think we've talked about it before, and you can go down, maybe not a deep rabbit hole, but there are definitely some areas of TikTok where, African children are talking about how in their households, they were terrified of their dads. And it's like when dad is coming home from work, everybody scatters.
Yeah.
They don't want to be the subject of his wrath. At that point, it's like they were frightened of their dad. But that Baba Segi is like the opposite. Like the children love him. They're so excited when he gets home, and he like treats them very fondly too. So I feel like I've seen people make skits about it on TikTok. They're laughing, where I think somebody made a skit where it's like, which father was yours? And they gave like 4 different scenarios. The one that comes home and everybody scatters, they're terrified. The other one comes home and he's jovial and, he's joking with the kids, everybody's happy. The third one, it was like, oh, he comes home and he's grumbling and hungry and asking what did they cook, so it's different. And there were so many people in the comments relating to the first one, like, yeah, when our dad would come home, it's like everybody made themselves scarce. So I thought it was interesting to see that in Baba Segi's household, it was the opposite.
Yes, and I think because he loved his children so much, I think that's how he ended up in that situation. Because I can remember when the wives were mad about Bolanle and Iya Segi said, what does Baba Segi like more than food? And they said children. It's like, don't worry, he'll get over her soon. And so I think that's actually how he ended up in that situation, because they realized like children were his weakness. He's described like the kind of father that if his wives wanted something and he said no, the minute you slid in that it was for a child or something, you were sure to get it. And even at the end, where his oldest son Akin came to him and was telling him he wasn't sure, like just for the boy to be able to have that kind of open conversation, the way that he responded, like even in that moment where he was dealing with loss and the revelation of the betrayal, he still was able to put that aside and be a really kind and caring father for his son.
Yeah, so I mean I think that struck me. And then I would describe him as a man of a delicate constitution, because in the book, anything that upsets him, makes him nervous.
Yeah, I think he had IBS.
Is that what? But it was brought on by
anxiety. He has anxiety. I think he has anxiety-induced IBS.
Yes. And it's not just, they describe it like it's coming out either end, right? If he has just eaten, he's gonna throw up. If it has been a while since he has eaten, then he will have diarrhea. Find him a toilet immediately. But then also, once he relieves himself, it seems to like calm him down. Because there were a couple of situations in the book where, who was it? Iya Tokpe's dad, who Baba Segi was an investor in, was it yam or cassava that they were growing?
Cassava.
Yeah, and they had a huge loss, 1 year. And when Baba Segi came, obviously to collect the harvest, they told him, the crops all failed this year. He rushes to the restroom. After he's done, he comes back and he's like, you know what, these things happen.
I'm telling you, when I was listening to him, I'm like, oh, this sounds like a chronic case of IBS, man. Anxiety induced. The man had anxiety, but
big time. Yeah. But yeah, that I thought that was amusing too. The fact that, whenever he relieves himself, his disposition changes and he's able to think with a clear head. Like if he was super angry, he has calmed down. If he was anxious or stressed, again, he has calmed down, and he often makes like irrational or very level-headed decision after that. So he definitely had his good side and his bad side, for sure. You do kind of feel pity for him though, at many points in the story, especially at the end of the story. I feel bad for her.
I at the end of the book, I felt like there was no clear villain. Like everybody was a villain, but then everybody had a backstory where it's like who's really at fault. Now they took it a step too far, but they all had their reasons, and their reasons seemed valid. Everybody's reasons seemed valid. Not the extreme, like not when they got to the murder plot, but
even just the meanness, right? Because there's this thing that people say, it's like you're not responsible for your trauma, but you're responsible for your healing. So
please, excuse me. These women that left their villages that they were in Ibadan, you really think that they knew their healing and their trauma? I'm just asking. They did. How were they supposed to heal?
Everybody has a choice, Bilala, because no matter what you've gone through, and they did go through some horrible things, they still made a choice to be incredibly mean. Let's even forget about like attempted murder. Just the meanness to somebody who has not done anything to you. You cannot put everything on your trauma. You have to take
No,
responsibility at some point.
So we have a running joke currently in my house right now where people do, whenever we do certain things, the joke is, wow, you're actualized. Like, I'm just saying that these women on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where was
Their needs were met? No, their needs were not met.
No, but and I think about it where in a polygamous home, right, there's always tension and this competition where, and I always say that, I hope this doesn't come across as classist, but it still comes back to Maslow's, right, where poor people tend to be wicked sometimes, right, in the sense that because you don't have, right, you're always thinking about your next one, and you're thinking about yourself and how you can preserve yourself for the next day, right? So it's all about you, and it's hard to see the greater good where you are just trying to survive and take care of yourself in that moment. It's not an umbrella, but I'm just saying that in a situation where people have not had, right? When you go, that's why sometimes when something is free, it's hard for people to just take. If you go to Cameroon somewhere in the market and just say, here is this thing, how many people do you think are going to take just the one for them and think that let me live for the next person? Somebody is saying it and just thinking about how last week I did not have, so I have to save this for this month, next month. They're not about the next person. And in that situation, because if we just want to do a summary, right? Iya Segi's own was that she's worked out her whole life. There were things she wanted to do and they said, oh, as a woman, you cannot do that. Her mother has told her whole life that, oh, you shouldn't rely on any man. You shouldn't rely on any man. Her mother came and found her lying in bed with her money and decided like, whoo, I've created a monster. But for her mother to take her money and give to a man to now marry her, and this man is like, oh, my mother gave me this money, I have to do things. They didn't tell him where that money from. I don't blame her for just being like, I'm sitting here, I want to take back my money. Like, yes. I want my money back. Because, and then you have to deal with all of these things. Like, he's being like, oh, I'm providing, I'm taking care. But he's taking care of me on my money. Like, I really felt bad for her. And then if you add in the fact that she didn't get to explore her sexuality, like she thought maybe she was attracted to women. And I don't know if that's why her mother did that 180 on you shouldn't be, I don't know. I was just wondering, like, because her mom did a very sharp 180 where even Baba Segi's mother says, I told you not to fill her head with these things. Then now how do you all of a sudden want to come and tell her otherwise? Oh, no.
Right. But
think about it though. If somebody took your savings and gave it to a man now, and then he's coming like a big bitch to come and marry you like he's the man with my money.
But she understood. I think she understood that that's the way it had to be. But to her credit, she got in his house and immediately started executing. She, asked him for money to invest in multiple businesses. By the time we meet her, she has like multiple cement stores. I think she has some other type. Right. Yeah. She got, I'm sure whatever her mom took from her and gave him, she's got that back and more. And for her, like money, they describe her as a woman, her and her mother, like were not conventionally attractive according to the description of the book. So to her, money was like her armor, right? Against the world. Because she even says like in the village, like when like children were like insulting her looks or laughing at her, like she didn't care because she knew
money.
How much money she had. She didn't give a damn. And then she's also a closeted, I don't know if she's bisexual or what. She's definitely attracted to women, So I thought that was an interesting sidebar that they slipped in there. But yeah, she uses money as her shield, as her armor against the cruel world, right? So my question is, right, obviously she's the first wife and she's the one who told Iya Tokpe and Iya Femi about basically, hey, you're gonna have to go collect children from somewhere else because this man is not gonna give it to you. I'm trying to figure out, I guess she didn't really conclude that he was a problem, but she was like, let me go and find out if he's the problem. Like if I sleep with this other man and I get pregnant, then I know. I'm trying to figure out like how, they don't really explain how she came to the conclusion, if she came to the conclusion before stepping out of the marriage.
She didn't really step out. It's fascinating because when the driver, Taju, talked about it, he mentioned that Baba Segi started complaining to him about Iya Segi not having children. And the next thing you know, Segi came to and was talking to him. So it's not necessarily clear how she came to that conclusion. Maybe she decided like, hey, let me try and see. But I don't think it's explicitly stated why she picked Taju, or why she used Taju for that.
I think it was just access. Like he was the most, accessible man, where she had the access and the opportunity. But it had not been long in the marriage. I don't think maybe it was a year, maybe less, right?
Two. I think it was a year or two.
Yeah. And so why? Because stereotypically, right? Even in like movies when we were growing up, typically the woman is always blamed. So how did she have that kind of wherewithal to say, you know what? I'm willing to bet that
it's not working here. Let me go try elsewhere. I don't know, because it seems that who was it who came? Was it Yatope or Yafemi, where she said, listen, he's getting antsy and very soon he's going to start carrying you around to places where they'll be making you drink concoction, so you better take care of this thing now. So I don't know, maybe he did that for a while. I don't think it stated how she found out and how she decided to use Taju.
Yeah, that was a bit really bold, and yes, it was wrong and deceitful as paternity fraud, but it was smart. It was smart. I will give Iyaseki that she is very smart and strategic.
She's not the first. Somebody said one day that you don't question the paternity of the children in the house. That especially in a polygamous home, any child that is born inside the house is yours. Don't ask questions, even if they look like the neighbor. Because my friend said, on one hand, if you start asking questions, it means that you are the problem, right? That is a reason why.
I don't know. I find it fascinating. So just a short sidebar, like I was watching a TikTok, and I don't know if it was planned. If it was not planned, then that was incredible. But this comedian is doing a stand-up, and he starts, they just have banter with the audience, and he starts talking to a guy in the audience, and I don't know how they got on the topic. But that guy had found out that his father was not his father, and he found out by doing Ancestry. Like he had done like Ancestry.com or 23andMe or one of these things. And yeah, he found out that his father was not his father, and neither was he had another sibling also who was not his dad's child, and they never told the dad. I was like, wow, but people in the comments were like, maybe they used the donor, or maybe they just didn't want to tell the children. Maybe the parents actually knew that their dad was infertile, and they used the donor, and they just decided to keep it from the children. It's not necessarily the case that the mom was cheating. But yeah, the fact that, they were like, they're never going to tell, ever, they're never going to tell their dad. So I thought that was interesting.
Kerry Washington was going to do 23andMe, and that's when her parents had to tell her that they used a donor for her.
Oh wow! You see how technology is breaking up families. Wow.
There was no cheating.
Yes, but that's still a huge secret that
My mother would always joke when we said we were going to do 23andMe, that anything that we want to go and find out. I don't know. When you start going, you go and find out that you are matching with relatives somewhere. Problem inside the family. So, yeah, I don't know. But paternity fraud is actually a big thing in Africa, in Cameroon.
Wait. I want to correct. It's not actually a big thing. It's a paranoia. Like the concept of it, I think that the actual amount of times that it happens is a lot less than the men are like blowing it up to be. To me, it's an irrational fear. It's not.
I'm not about this young. I'm not about this young. I'm not about back in the day, right? It was not irrational. And the thing about it is they will not admit it.
It's not
because
that common.
if they don't admit it, didn't I just tell you that when Pa has 4 wives in the house, he knows how he's rationing. So when he starts looking at one, he can. But for him to ask that, he's admitting that maybe there's something, because what makes it stop at that one only? So they don't question it.
I think, how, I forgot what episode it was on, and I said that this fear that a lot of women have, that they're dating like a down low man, or is this kind of like worst fear for a heterosexual woman, for her man to be down low? I think that is an irrational fear, just based on I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but I'm saying that based on the likelihood of it happening is irrational. That's how I feel about men's fear of paternity fraud. I think it's irrational.
So actually, and in Cameroon, let me tell you what they used to say, that the American embassy was breaking up families, because when you were doing immigration by family, and I think it was with green card lottery especially, they had to do tests to make sure. Yes, quite a handful of families got there, and they were choosing. There will be that one or two.
I don't think that shit is as common as like the men trying to make it out.
But that's what was happening.
Let Nigerian Twitter tell it. Wow.
Oh no.
Let them tell it.
But I'm just saying that it was a common, because I feel like they don't do it anymore. But back in the day, the American embassy was where families used to scatter.
Okay, so that's Iya Segi. Iya Tokpe. Described as slow, but I think she was just on the spectrum. That's what it was giving me. It was giving me a little, neurodivergy. Not a little bit, a lot. She was giving on the spectrum.
Yeah, because she was always daydreaming, right? Or something. She had imaginary friends.
But then she had particular habits. Like she loved pulling weeds. Like she had, how... I don't know if it's specifically autistic people, but there are certain people who are on the spectrum. They hyperfixate on things, and that's what it describes with her, and the pulling weeds.
And then also after she had the children, it sounded like she also now had some kind of postpartum depression, because day that Iya Segi walked in there, and one baby, the newborn, was crying, and then the older baby was sleeping, and the other one was removing poop from the diaper and putting it in Tokpe's. Oh, Jesus Christ!
And her room was dirty and in shambles, So she definitely, to me, that scene described postpartum depression for sure. But I felt sad for her that she had to break off her relationship with her butcher, because she seemed like he really made her happy.
He did not. He just fucked her into calmness.
That's making her happy.
He was asking her for money.
Regardless, she was happy with the situation.
I mean, it gave her peace. It was a good lay.
She liked her arrangement.
It was definitely a good lay.
This is the one, listen, this is where, I don't know, again, I've never had children, so you guys should tell me if this is realistic. I think the author was exaggerating here. They said 3 days after she had the first child, she was up in that man's butcher house trying to get laid again. 3 days?
Hyperfixation. However,
that's unrealistic.
It's against medical advice, because most doctors will give you 6 weeks.
Right. I'm like, through a vaginal birth, you're going 3 days. I said, no, this author, she's pushing it now.
But also
she's pushing it.
Listen, she said she was pregnant.
The mummies who are listening should correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that's a realistic.
I have no experience in
scenario.
3 days, so I can't speak to that. I'm trying to think of where I was. 3 days, please. I'll stay in the hospital, please, and thank you.
Hello. Anyway. But yeah, she was the kindest. So was Bolanle, but she was also afraid of the other two. So there was a limit to what she could do.
Yes.
Right.
I think she just, like you said, she was probably neurodivergent, and she was kind. She would have tried to be kinder to Bolanle, but those other two, which is strong-armed her and would not let her be, and she was just barely managing herself. And I feel like getting laid by her butcher was like her only moment of peace, and the only thing that she actually looked forward to, because in essence she was kind of like sold, or given, because the crops did not do well, she was sent into marriage. And I think she was young, she was a teenager when they sent her to marry, where her dad wouldn't even look at her when he married her off, but it was like payment for a debt.
It was Baba Segi did not even ask that man for anything. That was the annoying part. He just felt guilty and offered her like a fucking goat. Like, Baba Segi was not pressing them. He was like, when they told him the crops failed, he was like, okay, these things happen. The dad just offered her, like, that was so wild to me.
You've never known that kind of poverty.
But that he was not in debt, though. To say that he was in debt is not describing the situation, because Baba Segi basically forgave the debt.
I feel like we are discussing this the way that I was writing my picture composition in primary school. We don't have all the facts. She did not give us too much to know whether he was going to come back or whatever. But at face or whatever they arranged, because Baba Segi could have said no. He did not have to take Tokpe when he was offered.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. He could have said no.
He could have said no.
But yeah, so I felt bad for her in that sense. And Baba Segi was not, none of these women describe him as a good lover. So
No. They
it's
said
like,
he
it's
was
one,
pounding. They said he was pounding into them. I bet he could have pounded them into the headboard if allowed. It did not sound like a
it
pleasurable
did not.
experience at all.
And like, anyway, I'm not even going to get into details. Um, Iya Femi, the Wicked Witch of the West,
Was she wicked?
she was wicked, but she had a very, very difficult childhood. Again, she was sold as well.
Yes. And not
the
even sold because they
injustice.
needed not and she wasn't sold because they needed money. She
No.
was just sold because somebody wanted to take over her father's property, and because it sounded like her parents were going to send her to school and she was the only child and they were taking care of her. And then her parents died and I think also she had seen her parents love each other, because she said it only made sense for them to die together because she doesn't think either of them would have been able to survive without the other. So she grew up in a home where she saw love with her parents, and then she was taken care of, and then her stupid ass uncle brought this. I'm not even going to blame the wife, but stupid uncle decided to sell her as a house help to somebody who was really, really mean, and she was driven by vengeance. She was laser focused in her goal.
Listen.
No distractions, no tunnel vision.
I love that about her. But yeah, you're right. The uncle, it's not like they needed the money. It's not like they couldn't take care of her. The uncle could have kept her in the house, sent her to school, lived there with his wife and control the property, but still follow her parents' wishes. Sent her to school, but no, they were so greedy, like despised her so much. They're like, she's a spoiled child. Her parents have spoiled her. Sent her to this stranger who, I mean, Harry Potter had it easy. She was sleeping under the stairs and laboring for this family. It said, what, 15 years she was in that house?
Yes, 15.
Yeah. You know, the conditions, it was like she couldn't go to bed until everybody in that household has come back and gone to bed. Like, what nonsense? Like, what's the reason?
You know, the irony of Iyafemi is the fact that she was born into a Muslim family, and then at some point when she was working for the lady grandma, she converted to Christianity. But that her Christianity didn't hook all the way, because it's like her evil deeds, like evil Bolande. She was mean to Bolande, but she's like, she'll go and pray in church.
Listen.
And then, like, with grandma, where I think she was peeing. She was peeing in her water. Then I think she was mixing poop or something in her food, where she ended up in the hospital. And she said that was the first time she knew peace in over 10 years when she had grandma, because she was always sending her one errand or another. But it's like she was doing this when she found the Lord, and she was praying.
Yes, that's the thing. She started, but okay, this is her logic, which I don't think you can really argue with. EFME, she said that preacher who, ministered to her in the market, wherever she was, she said, God says vengeance is mine. She said, okay, so if the Lord is vengeful, then what more of me? Which I argue with that logic. So she said, okay, the Lord is vengeful. Let me therefore carry out his vengeance for him. And then that's when she started plotting. Like you said, she was laser focused, because when she had the means, she went back to her village and set that house on fire that, her uncle had basically stolen from her. And I love that for her.
It was giving waiting to exhale, the way she set that house. And she said, hey, that she only came for revenge, or she didn't come to kill anybody.
So she does have a little bit of morals and ethics. Even her own wickedness has a line,
She was fascinating to me, knowing her backstory. And then the irony of her using that wicked woman's son to have kids. And where she had tunnel vision in the day she's going to walk in there and show her, like, yeah, look at that, your grandchildren. I had your grandchildren and they're boys. Because I think she also looked down at Tope, because Tope had 3 girls. And she's like, I gave him boys. And I feel like her and Bolanle could have been friends of sorts, because she was also very snotty the way she looked down at the other wives. Like, they didn't pick their children's fathers. She made sure that her kids' fathers had pedigree and yada 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 yada. But I think the lesson from her was like, yo, you shouldn't be so driven by spite, because in the end, that lady died without her ever showing the children. And then I've forgotten what that man's name was.
Tunde.
He left without even telling her that he was leaving. No goodbye, nothing.
But that was the other lesson for her, though. It's like, okay, you yourself, you've admitted that, this man has pedigree. He's from definitely a different class than you. Why do you think that he regards you as his equal? Just the fact that you guys were carrying on this affair for years and you had his children, like that, the fact that he left without telling you, that shit, like, that was her blind spot. It's like, you're not his equal. He does not see you as his equal. And even if she took those kids to grandma, she was counting on the fact that grandma would have a certain reaction. Grandma could have turned around and said, do you think you're the only harlot that, has carried my son's children? No, it's true. But she thought that she was going to be like, like grandma, this would be like a blow. And it could not have been. She
didn't think about that. I mean, because he also gave her money, and then he was like the one who drove her back to her father's compound to go, and he enjoyed the thing.
Today I like it because he was doing things for the plot.
Yes,
that was it. Yes. Simply because he drove her all the way to her village.
That was a vibes master.
Listen,
I think maybe his mother dying gave him some ambition, because I think he described there was something he said about he didn't have anything. He was ready to. Sometimes he
was a hedonist. He said he was a hedonist.
Yeah, I remember someone else talked about they're just here passing time before they die. Basically.
Listen, Tunde was just here for the plot. He was here for the vibes. When she set her uncle's house on fire and she came back to the car, he was like, "Bravo."
Yes, yeah, he was like, I think he was like a badass or something like that.
Yes.
That was.
And honestly, it didn't even sound like she gave him the backstory. I don't think he understood what was happening. He just
I think she told him.
Oh, really? He was just like, yes, he was like, bravo. And even when she married Baba Segi, he was like, yeah, you go, girl. I'll be here.
Talking about it, right? So all these women, I don't know if we've laid it out that basically, well, we've talked about paternity fraud. So Iya Segi had her own children, Segi and Akin, with Taju, Baba Segi's driver. Iya Tokwe had her own with the butcher in the markets. And then Iya Femi had 2 or 3 boys. Was it 2 or 3? I don't remember. She had children with the lady who she used to work for. She had children with her son. Because it seems like even after they had these children, they were going, and these men were not asking. I think Taju knew, but Taju said, please, he doesn't even have money to take care of the family that he has at home. So he's not trying to come and carry new children. He's not about to be fighting for children of Baba Segi, so he's just going to look the other way.
But I understand why Taju was scared, but he kind of ran away unnecessarily, because I don't think the women ever revealed to Baba Segi who their fathers were. It was kind of like a don't ask, don't tell situation. So Taju could have remained in
yes, they didn't. Because when he called the family meeting and they were sitting there, he tried to, when he didn't ask, but when he tried to kick them out, and Iya Segi basically said, look, we ain't going nowhere, because I've forgotten how she flipped it, but she was just basically like, yeah, no, we are not leaving, because it's a disgrace for you to, I think she played it off like, if we leave, then you have to explain to everybody what happened, and you're going to have to carry the shame too.
But she also offered, she did frame it like that, but she also offered to be the one. But again, she knew him the best, and I think she knew how he would respond. Because she did say that, obviously she had brought shame on the household. She was like, if you're going to expose our dirty laundry to people, at least let me just be the only one. There was something where she was acting like she was trying to sacrifice herself, but she probably knew that.
I mean, she did. She said she led them astray. You know what? I have to give it to Iya Segi that when they were going, after they had done the Baba Segi's test, fertility test, she's like, instead of waiting for him to get the results, please, let me just go with him to the hospital. Unless we don't need the results.
The doctors had figured it out, and they asked him to bring one of his wives, and he chose her. So I think by then she was like, okay, I'm just going to cut. He did. Cause she,
oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they asked.
And I think the doctors were relieved when she started talking, because they didn't have to be the one to break than used to.
Yeah. I mean, that also goes to show, like, Iya Segi and Iyafemi, like, they miscalculated. Like, instead of trying to terrorize Bolanle and, like, run her out of the house, I don't know why they didn't consider the option of just letting her in on the secret and taking that chance that she would join them and not tell Baba Segi. Instead, to me, it seemed like the harder route to be doing all of this. You're trying to poison her, you end up killing your own child. It's like, why not try the alternate route of just letting her in on the secret?
It was a combination of Bolanle's uppityness and their insecurities about her being educated. Because we said Bolanle was also using Baba Segi. So there's a chance that she too would have gone with it, because after all, she'd had her own little boyfriend. What's his name? Her landlord's son. Was it Shegun? No.
Shegun. Yeah, it was Shegun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she'd had her own little boyfriend. Maybe she would have gone with it. But when she came out the gate swinging about teaching everybody, teaching the children, their insecurity, and especially for Iyafemi, education was a big thing for her, where she wanted to go to school. She just never had the opportunity. And so that insecurity they were blinded by their insecurity, I want to say.
Yeah, and that was a miscalculation, because it cost somebody their child, obviously.
So for the longest, Segi had, stuck by her mother. She was her mother's eyes and ears and would report to her mother whatever Bolande did. And then because Bolande saw her somewhere with a boy that day, she decided to ended up in her room and ate the poison food that was intended for Bolande. Like something that she would never do. But then somehow when she got poisoned, for whatever reason, she decided that Bolande was the only person she could trust and wanted to be with, which I think really hurt Iyaseki even.
But Segi was not stupid. She figured out that obviously they told them at the hospital that she had been poisoned. So, she put 2 and 2 together. And she knew that her mother, I think that's why, she kind of was drawn to Bolanle's side. Okay, but one thing that in this book I don't understand is, I don't know from whose perspective they were talking, but they were saying like, okay, when there were 2 of them, Iyaseki got 4 nights and Iyatope got 3. Then when, who's the other one? Iyafemi came, then it was 2, 2, 2, and then he would pick like somebody to dash, the extra night. But they were saying it like, oh man, there's another wife now, we're gonna have to like, share the nights, and it's gonna be even less nights. I'm like, isn't that a good thing?
I don't necessarily think that it was from they wanted his company, but more from a power, because you were in his favor. Because that's what irked them about Bolanle. Like, Bolanle was a new shiny object, so he listened to her and would give her anything, which is what he did with Iyafemi when she was the new shiny object. Iyafemi was almost like a petulant last child, because I think that was really her problem, that they brought somebody new. She didn't stop to consider that, hey, when you came, you were the new girl at some point.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I just found it. I feel like if I were in a polygamist home, I would want there to be many, many more wives, so then you don't have to sleep with a man that frequently.
I will have an auction for my nights. It's going to the highest bidder.
Listen.
I've always said that I don't mind polygamy, right? But I just know that if I was doing polygamy, I would be indulging in paternity fraud, because you can have your wives. I'm gonna have my people on the side. It's very simple. It's very simple.
I'm pretty sure that happens frequently.
It does. I've told you that's why they say that any child that is born in the house is yours. Actually, there's even an extreme where if a man dies and they did not return the bride price or anything, if you have a child after your husband dies, that child's still getting that man's last name. And I've seen it happen. When somebody was born maybe 10 years after their mother's husband died, he has the last name.
Okay, I love it. People want to do legacy. Your legacy will follow you to your grave and after.
I have a sidebar that matches this story, because I don't know if Amu Mezam still exists, but Amu Mezam was one of the transportation companies that did Douala and Yaoundé to Bamenda, right? And the owner was like an older man who he wasn't educated, formally educated, but he was a savvy businessman, and he was also a polygamist. And he married an educated woman, right? And so the story was, once he married this educated woman, every time somebody would want to come and argue with him and be speaking too much English, he was like, hold on, make her call my computer. He used to call his educated wife his computer. And so when she passed away before him, and they said, the person told me the story, said they went to visit him. He was just like, hey, my computer don't. Because basically for him, he was so proud, right? Which again is one of those things, like, I don't know if it was an insecurity, like, people have talked to him, and he was also, like, I want to say he was Bamileke, maybe from, like, the Francophone side, who went to Bamenda, so his English was not necessarily great either. Mm-hmm. And so every time people want to come and be speaking grammar, he didn't have an answer. So when he married this new educated wife, so people have been talking to me anyhow. Hold on, let me call.
But I mean, I love that though. Like, he wasn't insecure about her being more educated than him, and he definitely valued that. I mean, honestly, if I was building a polygamous or polyandrous home, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll have a smart one, a strong one.
You have a butcher,
a good cook, and good cook.
No, I'm talking about. Cleaner. I said. Yeah, Topper's butcher. You have one of those.
Yes. What else?
A lawyer.
Smart, strong, quote unquote,
they get out
butcher.
of jail.
And they're rich, obviously.
Yes.
I mean, like, business savvy. Yeah. That's there. There you go. There you have it.
A rich who is not possessive, right? A rich who is like, we understand ourselves, also compound. You do what you gotta do. I do what I gotta do.
What do you mean do what you gotta do? In my house? No, you ain't doing what you gotta do in my house. What do you mean?
Please.
Not in my house.
Sorry, please. I can't shout. I cannot shout.
Anyway, that was a really, really entertaining, like, good story, and I wish I get the opportunity to see the play. I don't know if they're still even doing productions, but yeah.
They had another run this year, but it ended earlier in the summer. But I follow one of the actresses who does it, so if I see it, I will send it to you. Let
me know for sure. Who was your favorite character?
Yeah. Since I'm very wicked at heart. Yeah, Femi.
I don't think she was my favorite. She just did a little bit too much. Like, if she had toned it down just a bit.
Iyatope was not my favorite character because she was just there. I don't think she was just there, right? She, as we said, like, maybe she was depressed or whatever, so she wasn't a strong presence or a strong personality. Bolale too was going through things, so she's not really my favorite. Like, she was going through, I like her arc, right? How she went from, I'm running away from this thing. I despise my father because he's just there, he has no drive or whatever. Her being able to have that moment with her mother, and her mother not, like, being in denial, but empathizing with her for the situation and, like, feeling bad, like, why couldn't you tell me? And, like, her making the choice to go and be with her mother, like, of her own volition. So, I mean, she was okay. But I'm just saying, because I'm a wicked person at heart, I really enjoyed Iyafemi. Because there was she was driven by wickedness. There was she was hard. She was hardened in the heart. And she had
I admire her tunnel vision. I mean, I admire her focus. Like, she did not let anything go.
No distraction.
I admire her focus. So yeah, I don't think she was my favorite. Again, I just don't like people who don't take a stand. It's like, if you're going to, like, be Bolale's friend, then take her side. And if you're going to be wicked, be wicked. What is this wishy-washy thing in the middle? I don't like people, like, pick a side,
Fair.
So that's what annoyed me about her. But again, I get that she was neurodivergent. I would say Segi over Iyafemi for me, just because she really, she was about her bag. She was in her bag. She was about that money. What I thought when she got discovered also, I'm like, she has all this money saved up. Maybe did she not think it was enough to, like, start a new life? She only had, her daughter has died. She only has the one son. Like, did she not think she had enough to start over?
Again, revenge. She still wanted her initial investment in his business.
I mean, I don't know, because I thought that's what she was doing all along. Wasn't she, like, basically getting her fuck you money together?
No, she made more money. But she was waiting for him to die so she could take back her original money.
Oh yes, you're right. She was waiting for him to die. But I'm like, okay, your plan has not worked out. You've been discovered. I mean, maybe she thought, like, let me try begging first. And then if that doesn't work, then I'll take my money and take my child and go. So, yeah. I mean, but I think she was, if I had to pick a favorite, it would be her. Another reason I didn't like Yeah, Femi, because she's described as like attractive, at least compared
Yes.
to the other
The
two wives. I
others.
don't know about Bolanle, but I think she was bleaching as well. So she was colorist.
I don't know. She also thought they were all dirty.
And that part I get because
I
she
don't
was just a
remember.
neat freak. She was like a clean freak. So
Yeah.
I'll not hold that against her thinking that they were dirty. But because even when Bolanle meets her for the first time, she makes a comment not a comment out loud, but she notes like her knuckles. So I think FME was bleaching.
Maybe. Maybe. I know
Yeah.
she spent a lot of time talking about herself and how she looked and how she looked better than the others and how, like I said, she was sort of like Bolandi because she felt she was better than everybody too. Down
She
to who
did.
she picked. Down to who she picked. Like, she was like, oh, the house. Like, when she walked into the house, she was just like, she didn't think it was clean enough for her. And how she, like, her sons were always around her and yada, yada, yada. She wouldn't let anybody do X, Y, Z. So, it was, like I said, I started off annoyed with Bolande. But at the end, I felt bad I empathized with everybody. Down to even Baba Segi because, now, except Taju, there was a time where I think when they went to hospital the first time and the doctor asked Bolande, like, when was the first time she had sex, and she said when she was 15, and Baba Segi was in the room and like he had been rude and all these things. He did something which was purposefully to humiliate her in front of Taju, and Taju enjoyed it. Like, he reveled in it. So that is probably the only character I did not sympathize with. It was just like, whatever.
Because Tajo was mean to her for no reason. Like, what reason do you have not to like her? He was.
He has like his baby daddy, so loyalty.
But he was also like.
She used to feed him and do other things. So he was loyal to Yasegi. I don't know, but I felt bad for everybody, like, when they lost Segi and, like, they're going through, and where Akin is, like, he doesn't know if he can be the eldest sibling in the way that Segi took care of all the other kids and was there for all her siblings, which is something also that speaks to who Baba Segi was as a father or, like, as a person. Because they all talk about how close the children were. Like, when the children talked about each other, they didn't give, like, my half sister. It was just like, oh, my sister Segi. And even how they describe Segi taking care of the kids, it wasn't like, even if the mothers were fighting, it did not look like it affected the relationship that the children had with each other.
I agree, and I think that's because of the relationship they had with their father. I think that was why they were so close, because their mothers definitely didn't like each other.
And I've seen that, and I think that a lot of times people talk about, oh, polygamous homes and the women fighting, but I really do think that the father plays an important role in setting the stage for the direction of these relationships. Because I know someone where her stepfather, so this man raised her, but he wasn't her biological father, and her mother was one of several women, but they're all so close. She, who is a step sibling to the others, when she was like my sister, she would not say my stepsister, and their father has been gone for over a decade. They still try to plan reunions, just the children meeting up and doing things. And I think that it speaks to the character of their father and how he raised them. Their mothers did not always get along. There was, when their father passed, then they did have to work together, because African families, a man would die and his siblings want to also come, and the wife realized, like, we gotta work together for our kids. But I'm always very fascinated by the relationship that the children have, because even the sibling whose mother is not Cameroonian, they all are still very close. So when you're out here shouting, even though mothers are in the home every day, fathers can play a really, really big role in the outcome of relationships that their children have. When y'all want to be out here having children up and down the place, it's your responsibility to make sure that these children actually have a relationship, regardless of how their mothers feel about each other.
I mean, let's not even get into let's not get into that. Anyway, for the people who are reading along with us, share your thoughts. Who was your favorite character? Who was your least favorite character? What did you think about the book? And if you haven't read it, I mean, don't mind that we spoiled it, but it's still a very, very good read. Yeah. All right. So this concludes our very short summer season. We're going to take another break and we will be back. But in the meantime, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. It really helps us. Even if you go there and watch the videos all the time, you actually following or subscribing really helps. Same thing with Spotify, same thing with Instagram. If you're not following us, we are at 2Bs in a pod on all those places. On Instagram, you can search at 2Bs pod. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And until next time.
A fish and bird may fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together. First of all, where did they meet?
They met at the water's edge, okay? So the bird was having a little sippy sip, maybe doing some fishing for herself. And, the fish was swimming by and saw this lovely pair of eyes staring down at her. And that's how they met. But this made me think of Bolale and Baba Segi, because they're from two different worlds. Like, it would never have worked, even if the other wives were nice to her and she could have kids with him. Like, it wouldn't have worked. They're from two different worlds.
I don't think he would have worked with anybody or any of his wives. None of them liked him.
No. Yes, I think Segi liked him.
No, they forced him on her.
But she liked him. She liked him. Yes, he was a horrible lover, but I think they had a real partnership, two of them.
They had a partnership, but she didn't like him as her romantic partner. She was in there. She liked him because he had her money.
I mean, I think they had formed actual legit, that the way they describe it, it's like she could almost read his mind.
I mean, if somebody has your money, you learn them because you got to keep them in your pocket. You're not trying to antagonize them. You don't want to antagonize them. You don't want any separation from them because you're separating yourself. Listen, I'm just saying, I don't think she liked him.
She tolerated him to say that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the men who still say that women don't cheat and women are emotional teachers, voila.
Listen, no, I don't think this is a good example of that because they had to cheat.
I mean, they had to. I'm sure everybody has a reason for why they cheat. But my point being that I always joke that men like to say that women don't cheat until the child needs blood and they realize they are not a donor. Then they are connecting with two different situations. I'm just to say, respect people regardless, and women are capable of doing things too. Because men think that they have a monopoly on cheating and they're the only ones who bring a child and the woman has to forgive. Be like Baba Segi, forgive too.
He did not say children and go. He never once said that. Well, even when he was angry, he was going to drive the women. I don't think he ever said anything about the kids, even in his anger when he was still undecided. He was always directing his anger. Well, no, when Segi called him her father, I think he had an outburst, but he never kind of insinuated that he would be putting the children out. I don't think I ever heard that from him.
And like I said, I think by the moment with Akin, he had made peace with these are his kids. They're his children regardless.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think that was the right decision because at the end of the day, it's not the kid's fault, that you can't just uproot them and kick them out with their mothers. They don't understand what's, their dearly beloved dad suddenly doesn't want them anymore. Anyway, thank you all so much. Stay in touch with us on social media and we will see you back again soon.